All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 18, 2025 LEOFF 2 board meeting. I'd like to go ahead and call us to order. Start off with taking a moment of silence to remember our fallen brothers and sisters. Thank you very much. Just as a reminder, please turn your microphones on when speaking and addressing the board. Thank you. We have a little bit of a change to what we're going to do, but we are going to start off, entertain a motion to adopt our May 2025 minutes.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the minutes as presented. Is there discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So item number 2 on our agenda, and by way of just a quick background, we had to move things around because of scheduling of this room. We are going to adjourn to executive session to evaluate the performance of a public employee. The initial time frame they had set aside was, I believe, 50 minutes, and we are going to go ahead and we'll move to executive session for 30 minutes, and we'll be in there, and we'll come back out at 10 o'clock. Does that work? So we will move over for our board members that are going to be joining us. This will be a separate link. For those who are just watching online, we will be back on at 10 o'clock. You can either stay where you are. I believe that works appropriately, correct? We'll come back in the room. So we will adjourn to the other room for executive session.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. All right, well, we will go ahead and reconvene our June 18th, 2025 meeting. It is now 10:03. And our next item up for discussion is item number 3, possible executive director recruitment. And Karen, you have that. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Karen Durant, staff of the board. As you know, at our last board meeting, Director Nelson announced that his last day will be March 31st. The top priority of the board for 2025 in their expectations was succession planning and the transition. That goal was universal for all board members. Currently, the board has just over 9 months to appoint and transition a new executive director, ideally to be effective April 1st of 2026. There are 2 options to consider for filling the position: to conduct an open recruitment, probably using a contract for an executive recruiter, and an internal appointment. There are advantages and disadvantages to both approaches. The advantages of an open executive recruitment are possible larger candidate pool for selection, potential different external perspectives on the issues, and mitigation of risk of discrimination claims. Disadvantages of an external recruitment are it can be costly. A retained recruitment runs between 30 and 35% of an annual salary. The cost of a contingent recruitment is between 20 and 30%. Other costs for potential moving expenses would be in addition to that. Currently, the transition is 9 months, and that would be shortened by any length of a recruitment and the position start timing. There's always a risk that a recruitment may not produce a qualified candidate. And finally, an open recruitment may make internal candidates feel undervalued and may leave. Advantages of an internal appointment. The succession transition can begin as soon as the appointment has been made. Especially important if the new executive director needs to begin reaching out to other potential candidates for backfill of vacancy. The backfill recruitment could potentially have no cost. The internal appointment would retain a historical perspective and have directly relevant knowledge, background, and experience. Key relationships are already established with board members, staff, and stakeholders with proven expertise. Oh, I'm sorry that I missed a slide. I'm sorry. Next steps. Does the board need additional information? First of all, and board decision on direction. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Are there any questions? So the options before us on that were board decision on direction.
I'd like to make a motion if I could, please.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'd like to, excuse me, make a motion to appoint Jacob White as the Executive Director of the LEOFF 2 Board effective April 1st, 2026, with the authority, of course, to negotiate a salary offer within the established adopted range, and is delegated to the board chair.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Jacob White, Executive Director of the LEOFF 2 Board effective April 1st. And the authority to negotiate salary with within the established ranges would fall to me to report back to you as a board with approval. Discussion. Sure. Yes, sir. Senator Holy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The couple of the intangibles out there, or not even intangibles, a couple of the very relevant impacting factors out there that if you have an open call or if you have a recruitment process is a lack of knowledge about the cultural fit within the system, and also the volume context of institutional knowledge, institutional memory. I think these are two huge boxes that you have to check that would actually have an impact on the running of the organization, no matter what the leadership capabilities of whoever person you choose are. These are things that make or break deals. The reason I jumped on is we haven't talked beforehand. This just what you said, Daryl, makes perfect sense. The reason I'm jumping on so quick as a second is that he's a known entity. He has not just institutional knowledge; he has institutional memory. There are so many things, and he currently works well, not just with staff and integrates well, but also with the members. There's a level of respect out there. There's a level of knowledge nationally at this point of who he's part of, what he represents, and I think this would be the logical continuum of the current processes, policies, and reputation, identity this board has. I think that even if you had somebody out there that had different types of experience or knowledge, that it still would not be a complete package. And he checks so many of the boxes that would not be able to be checked from somebody outside the system. That this is almost an easy choice at this point. So I'm going to be voting yes.
Jay, and then I've got Jason. I see your hand up, Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to agree completely with my colleague to my left on his comments. And I just want to say a couple things. One is I want to thank Steve for his work in succession planning and given the board a real great choice as Steve thinks about retirement. I'll have much more to say about Steve later in his retirement, but I want to thank Steve here in this moment and just want to say, out loud that, Jacob has my full confidence and support in that role.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two parts. First part for Karen. In part of the reviewing of this process, we received communication from the AG's office, and I just wanted to bring briefly that we've gone through the vetting process as far as what the processes are, and that as a board we reviewed the information as far as appointing versus recruiting. And can you speak briefly to that, Karen?
As we all know, there's risks for everything. we asked the personnel AAG to just do that, identify any risks potentially, and just kind of say, does the board have the absolute authority to do a direct appointment? And the answer was absolutely yes. However, because they are attorneys, they are to advise on risk. And the advice, one of the concerns was that there would be an internal candidate that might be interested in the position that was of unidentified protected class, which we've already mitigated that risk because no one else was interested in the position. And the other risk was if a board member potentially knew of someone who might be interested, and that person happened to be of protected status, that there would be a potential discrimination claim. So with everything, there is always risk. The paramount thing was the board has that absolute authority, and it's very clear in the statute.
Thank you, Karen. Mr. Chair, my second statement.
Go ahead.
I just want to, as a point of discussion, most of us would agree that institutional knowledge is paramount when you're leading any organization or taking over any organization. To be in that position is absolutely invaluable. And so Jacob has my complete support. I just wanted to voice that. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Sure.
Mr. Chair, I think this was implicit in both the motion and your comments, but I just wanted to clarify for the record that the board does have, as Karen pointed out, absolute authority to make an appointment and to set the salary, but you both go together. They go hand in hand. So I just want to clarify that the appointment is contingent upon the successful negotiation of the salary, which will be approved at a future board meeting.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Other comments or questions? Mark?
Yeah, I speak in favor of the motion. I think that the things that we've talked about here today all apply to this particular situation, and including Jacob's performance and his technical knowledge and his ability to speak with expertise and passion about the value of pensions and about the value of the way that this board has worked together. Employers, state elected officials, and member representatives, which I think is puts this board in a different category than a lot of pension boards across the country in terms of us being able to. I think we've got a 90% passage rate for all the proposals to the legislature over the past 20 years. I think that kind of speaks for itself. We interact with the department, the staff interacts with the Department of Retirement Systems, with the Office of the State Actuary, and we're very deliberative and very focused on our fiduciary responsibility. And I think that lends itself to the success of this board, which is unusual in a lot of pension boards across the country, private sector and public sector. And I think Jacob would be an excellent executive director. So I speak in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Just real briefly.
Darrell, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I think that in Karen's presentation there, one of the key things that she brought up was the relationships that already exist with the stakeholders. We're a very unique group of people, and sometimes change can be difficult for us. And the fact that we have the ability to put someone into this position that already has made those relationships and can continue them, I think is key. The stakeholders that I'm in contact with are comfortable with him. And I see that as an absolute positive.
Thank you. Wolf.
Thank you. I'm happy to support Jacob in this action. I'm thrilled that he's available and is willing to step into this important role. I just wanted to extend a note of thanks to Steve for thinking forward about his successor and to really thank him for taking the steps necessary to help that along, so that complexities and the nuances about this particular role are well understood to a successor. And that's especially important in which you have, in this case, what I'll call founders syndrome, where an executive director has been in place since the founding of the organization, and that's pushing 22 or 23 years now. It's significant and important what Steve has done. So again, happy to support Jacob and the board action in reaching out to Jacob in this manner. Glad he's there for us to be able to talk with him, and look forward to working with him going forward.
Thank you, Wolf. Appreciate that. Other comments? Seeing or hearing none, on the motion to appoint Jacob White, Executive Director of the LEOFF 2 Board effective April 1st, 2026, with the authority to be delegated to the chair to negotiate a salary within the established range and report back for approval. As Tor mentioned, everything's contingent on the agreement of this. That is the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Thank you. Not yet. Yeah. You know, my 30 plus years of negotiation strategy is going to come into play. You might be good at pensions, but I'm good at bargaining. Just kidding. All right.
I'm representing Jacob.
Table's been turned. All right. Thank you for that. Appreciate everybody's interest and participation in a very critical and important piece of what we do. Item number 4 is the 2025-2027 operating budget adoption. And Karen, turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Karen Durant, staff to the board. By way of background, the Law Enforcement Officers and Firefighters Retirement System Plan 2 Board has an expense account, Fund 548, that was created in RCW 4126-732. That fund is not subject to appropriation in the budget process, but expenditures are subject to review and approval by the Office of Financial Management. It is a budgeted and allotted fund. Expenditures necessary to meet statutory and fiduciary responsibilities need to be accounted for in the budget. That includes board meetings, member and stakeholder communications and outreach, professional development, contracts for services, and agency operations. Here is the current agency spending plan based off of currently authorized expenditure authority. This current plan does not take into account the agency having a funding shortfall. This will be discussed in the following slide regarding a 2026 supplemental budget request. Of these items, it is important to note, since the board has had discussion on this in the past, that the staff and trustee development category, does it show my, there we go, includes, the assumption includes development, education, travel for the board members at current assumed levels. It also includes the trustee board meetings and expenses that are associated with that. Agency and trustee and staff organizations and memberships. Outreach, as we've discussed in previous meetings, that would be a priority. And then the expectation interviews. After all of that has come out, there is enough funding in that 253 number for 1 or 2 opportunities for a staff to go to something. Only 1 or 2 total for all 8 staff. Are there any questions on that slide before we move on?
Just want to make sure I heard that right. Like 1 or 2 for all 8 of you, or each of you can do 1 or 2?
1 or 2 for all 8.
Okay.
And that is because the cost of travel has just escalated a lot. We will also have 2 new trustees
Right.
on the board, and it's more expensive to get that foundational training out of the way so they can fulfill their fiduciary responsibilities.
All right, thank you.
Having said that, here is a draft supplemental request. Because the LEOFF 2 board is a micro agency, we don't have the ability to absorb the variability in expenses and cost increases. Larger agencies with greater numbers of FTEs manage changes through staff vacancies and attrition. We are lucky here at the board to have a very stable workforce and expert level staffing, which means we have little to no turnover and no flexibility in the budget. With that in mind, we'd like to propose a supplemental budget request for your consideration. 77,000 is the one item that would be a one-time request. So that would be for the 25-27 biennium, and it would be backed out of the base in the ensuing biennium. The rest of the items, staff merit increases, these were granted in the last biennium for the WMS staff and the executive assistant. The 2025-27 general wage adjustment on there, because of the timing of when OFM pulled salary information, it didn't include some of the salary increases that you granted. So there's a shortfall in the funding for the 3% and the 2% that you guys adopted at our last meeting. There's been an increase to the cost for state actuary services. We did not get that item until after the budget passed. The lease increase, we're gonna put that back in. It was omitted in the last budget by accident. The actuarial audit contracts, prices have gone up for those services. The next one is the contract special AAG with Ice Miller to provide any legal advice on taxation and other matters. And then the member communications, currently with the cost of postage increases, printing increases, this is the amount that it would take for us to do 2 newsletters per year. Yeah, are there any questions on this?
This supplemental request, though, does not include any financial, budgetary items to bring back the training, though, correct?
Correct.
So if we were going to, what is the training amount? What would it take for us to approve a supplemental budget dollar amount to get back to previous dollars where you were all allowed to attend the 2 trainings that we had approved?
For 2 trainings per team member per year, 130,000.
And that's based upon the new dollars for travel and all of those things.
Yes.
So your supplemental request, that's 201. would be
331.
331.
Yes. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
I hear you. Go ahead.
I think
Okay.
I jumped the gun. Go ahead to you can go ahead to your next slide.
Okay.
Okay, Wolf's got you. Okay, got it.
Board actions.
Karen,
Oh,
before
sorry.
you jump ahead, help me understand again, from whom we would make a 2026 supplemental budget request, since we are a non-appropriated fund. Does it need to go through a supplemental at all? Because a supplemental implies action of the legislature that's not required in this case to adjust an appropriation. And if it's an allotment adjustment, is this an allotment adjustment OFM can do outside the 2026 process entirely and just do it? And even then, is it an allotment adjustment? Where does this stand exactly, and why do we have to ask anybody else?
That is a good point, and you are 100% correct. It doesn't have to go through the legislative process. I think it's just been a historical thing that the board has done, and that it also allows an opportunity for House and Senate to know what's going on. I just think in agencies that I know of when I was at OFM, when there was kind of some lack of awareness on parameters like that and being inclusive in decisions, that non-appropriated account was taken away and it became an appropriated account. So technically, you are correct. We could go to OFM and ask for the expenditure level to be increased, and we would do allotments according to that. We've just chosen, I think, since I've been here, to go in with formal budget requests.
Other questions? Go ahead, please, Mark.
I have a question. So if we just go ahead and do what we want to do, because I like to categorize it as our money. Does anybody have an opinion about what sort of risk that would be?
Karen, can you go back to the previous slide?
We're going to talk about.
Yes, so that 4,075,000 number there, Mark, the board has full authority to allocate, allot that money however you see fit. The board does not have the authority to expend money beyond that 4,075,000. So that's the piece that Karen was talking about. In order to spend beyond the 4,075,000, you need to have your expenditure authority increased. That can be either done by OFM directly, or it can be done through the supplemental budget process. Historically, we've used the supplemental budget process, although honestly, historically, we haven't gone in for a lot of increases. We've tended to manage increasing expenses for things like the newsletter or merit increases for employees by vacancies when during those times that we've had them. Been very frugal with costs. We don't have some of those tools available to us now. Vacancies, you'll have a vacancy next April, but planning to use that ahead of time to deal with your operating budget is not probably not appropriate. You'll have some choices then, depending on what the budget looks like. Then you might have some options, but right now, that 4,075,000, that's your budget, and you can't spend legally. You can't spend beyond that.
I'm confused.
Okay.
Sorry.
So Mark, there's two, as Wolf mentioned, there's two paths. We can go to OFM directly and ask for an increase to expenditure authority. To my knowledge, I don't think the board's ever done that. I could be wrong. I haven't been here through the history of stuff. Or you can go through the full decision package process, which is very detailed. You follow the budget instructions. They get submitted to OFM and the House and the Senate at the same time. Our assigned budget analyst looks at all of that, makes decisions, and puts it in various versions of the budget. As you guys know, this last session, we went in and asked for two things. We were a little late, and we didn't have time to do the formal decision package, but we did kind of an email notification for the board authority staff salary increases, and we also put in for the lease. I think the lease was was just overlooked because the priority frankly was the salary item. Prior to that, we went through the full budget process when we moved offices. And went through a very detailed process, filling out all the facility oversight stuff. Same process that large agencies have to go through. So we've just, I think, chosen to take a route that's more inclusive.
So our expenses, Mark, they're not paid for out of the pension fund. So your expenditure authority, if you go back to Karen's very first slide, so there's what, 20 billion in the pension fund. The state investment board manages the 20 billion. A sub-account of that is the fund 548. That's the fund that you guys have expenditure authority over. And the amount that's in that fund or will be in that fund for the upcoming biennium, 4,075,000. You can spend that however you want. Karen's slide on the expenditure plan is sort of the proposal for how to spend that 4,075,000. Based on the prior discussions, we've identified several areas where there's a shortfall. And so that next, either a shortfall in existing items or a shortfall in items that you have expressed interest in pursuing, the trustee and staff education and development in particular. And so the supplemental budget request is the identifies how much additional would be in order to meet all of your stated goals. 2 newsletters a year, paying everybody the salaries, though that's non-discretionary. Most of those items I think are going to be non-controversial and likely to be approved. We've had great success in the past getting these kind of requests approved, but there will be some that may, the education and development. We'll see how that was a touchy subject in the last budget. Will it be the same this upcoming budget? I don't know. But if that part is not approved, then we'll be coming back to you to say, here's how the allotments go within your expenditure authority, and you'll have control over that. We are confident that all of the fiduciary requirements for trustee education and development will be met with the operating budget. There's no supplemental money, I don't think, required for that. Does that help answer that question? Your question?
And just as a follow-up to our discussion on the staff education and travel, the governor came out with a letter saying what we want to look at first for cuts is kind of discretionary things. The first thing that comes off the plate is usually any travel and any training. Whether that's proper or not, it just seems like it's usually the first thing cut. So that is a reason why, because it's not something we really need to have to continue operations as this list is, it is not included on the supplemental. That was something that the board felt strongly about as a potential add.
Yeah, it came up in the last meeting, as you guys will recall. So we wanted to set that aside so that you could have that discussion today, understand exactly what was and wasn't in there and why, and decide how you wanted to move forward.
I see. Yeah. Jason, on this point, or is it? Go ahead. I'll just let you talk.
Yeah, is it appropriate to make a motion at this point, or are we still in discussion?
I think you can make your motion and we can have the discussion after the motion. That works fine too. So she's on, Karen's on slide board actions right now. So
two actions one to adopt the expenditure plan as listed here. The second, to direct staff to develop a 2026 supplemental request. Both require a motion.
So Jason, back to what you were saying. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I got itchy. I'd like to make a motion for number 2, to direct staff to develop a 2026 supplemental request. And additionally, I think it's important to recognize not only the training of our trustees, which is paramount. I remember when I was new, and I agree wholeheartedly with Jacob said, it took me 7 years just to figure out how to get in the front door. So I think it's also important for our staff to make those important connections that happen at trainings, in addition to training, to learning things that are important to them understanding their job, their positions, but not only that, to network accordingly throughout the nation. It's invaluable. And to not have that and say we're not going to provide that type of training, I think is somewhat irresponsible as a trustee. So I would like to make that motion for option 2. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, I will shorten your motion to say that you're directing staff to develop a 2026 supplemental request. And then for clarification, we had talked about the training piece because the presented supplemental request does not include training. We would have to have the supplemental piece include training if that's the desire of the board, which would be an additional 130,000, correct?
Yes. Education.
For 2
Yeah.
per year.
Yeah.
I can provide numbers for 1 per year, which, as you may recall, that was what the leadership team had decided, 1 for each staff per year, to try and get to the governor's priority on budget reductions.
I think we're comfortable too.
So that would be 130, yes.
So again, the motion then to direct staff to work on the 2026 supplemental request, the 201 plus the 130 for a total of 331. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to direct staff to develop a 2026 supplemental request. Comments or questions on that piece? And just, I know you had helped me with this. This is due by September, correct?
Yeah, the budget request is due in September.
So I'll speak in favor of the motion and just say, from my perspective, that the board has a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to make sure everybody gets the opportunity to go out and get the education and training that they need to be successful and to fulfill their obligation as an employee. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is mandated to go on to. It just provides the opportunity for the staff to be able to get the education they need to support the board and the 17,000 plus members that we represent, including the employers. And so I speak in favor of the motion.
Okay. Yep, Senator Oley.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely in support of the motion. Just a thought. If you have a state budget that's as draconian as we've had this last cycle, there's, with everybody else, every other agency out there that is not self-funded, there's going to be a perception that the governor's one-size-fits-all commentary about cutting, staff training and travel, this kind of thing, would apply to us too. I would suggest that as we pass this, in order to meet our largest challenge with every aspect, every member, everything, all the way through the total time of the board has been managing expectations, that we get out in front of this and attempt to manage expectations about how something like this is not budget driven and how we are completely different from everything else that is general budget, operating budget dependent upon revenues out there that don't exist in other areas that have to be cut, and attempt to differentiate ourselves from everybody else out there. Otherwise, as a matter of perceptions, we could be allowing pushback to start to happen when it's unnecessary to have to weather it. Just a thought.
Thank you. Jay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also support the motion. We have a tight budget. in Olympia to the city, and we'll have to make some reductions. And one of the things that I talk about with staff is when we get to that place, the last thing I want to cut is training and travel. We do our best work when we're innovative and strategic, and when we're not networking, when we're not training, when we're not doing the things we need to do to stay up to date with the latest trends and things that are happening within the profession, that we start to stand still. And we start to stand still, we actually start to lose momentum on very important projects and very important things. And so I think this is a really important thing for us to support.
Other comments or questions? Jason, again?
Yeah, Ms. Chair, after reading the slide above, it looks like I don't know if you need to amend my motion or make another motion, but I believe we need to adopt the 2025 expenditure plan as well.
We can do that on a separate motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On the motion regarding supplemental budget. Seeing no other hands or other comments, all in favor of adopting the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. All right. So then item number 1, which is the adoption of the 2025-27 LEOFF expenditure plan. Entertain a motion to adopt.
I'll make that motion to approve the 2025-2027 expenditure plan as presented.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on that. Seeing or hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
The last thing I want to mention is, of course, this is a big picture. A budget is a big picture idea. So we may need to come back to the board to adjust during the biennium. So we'll be letting you know how that's all working. And if there are any other questions, I think I have pretty clear direction what I'm supposed to be working on.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Appreciate your work. Item number 5 is the administrative update. Mr. Nelson.
Okay. Got a couple of quick things that I wanted to cover. We'll keep you posted as far as the availability of lunch. Today's schedule is slightly adjusted. As talked about earlier, there's a scheduling conflict, and the plan is to have lunch at 11 and be out of the boardroom no later than noon. So, yeah. Okay. The dual response newsletters were mailed out this week. You guys got a copy of that in advance from Jesse in case people contact you with anything about that. In May, Tammy and Jessica attended the Waspic Spring Expo in Spokane and had an outreach table regarding the ombuds program. And Walkops had their spring meeting in Everett. Jacob presented the board's a session update and an interim update at that. And then Tammy also attended to answer questions and network regarding the ombuds program. Upcoming outreach, we've got the State Council of Firefighters annual convention, and we will have a table there to answer questions and conduct outreach. That concludes the admin update as far as all of that. There was one other item that I wanted to talk with you guys about. As most of you probably know, this is Mark Johnston's last meeting before his term expires at the end of the month. Mark is the last remaining original board member. He was there before I was there. When I went to the very first meeting of the LEOFF board, I was sitting in the audience and he was sitting up there he's been there throughout. He's been a great resource for me personally. Has been a very involved, active board member. And some of you know, I know the firefighters, I don't know about the rest of you, but the board was originally created by a statewide initiative. Prior to that, it had been proposed legislation, which got a hearing but didn't pass. Mark was instrumental in the development of that legislation, which ended up becoming the initiative. And he was drafting it. I met his daughter one time at a conference, a state firefighters convention in Vancouver, and she was telling me stories about them going to the lake on vacation, and they're all out there playing around in the water and like, Dad, look at us. And Mark was sitting up on the grass at the lake shore, surrounded with piles of paper that were copies of board enabling legislation and documents from around the country, kind of putting together what ended up becoming the bill and the initiative that created this board. So literally, he was he was instrumental in the vision that created this board in the very beginning. So there's a couple of things, Mark. Years ago, we designed a coin for the original board members. Mark has already received his coin for being an original board member. One of the things we talked about, though, is recognizing all board members for their service. And so we have created a new challenge coin, which will be presented only to board members, but it will be presented to all of the board members. Today, though, there's just one. We'll get the rest of you, we'll figure out when and how to provide that to you. But today we have one coin, the first one, you. And we also, this is just a thank you card. You've done for the past 20 plus years. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
We've got a cake for you that we'll share with lunch when lunch is available. And then I'd be happy if there's any other board members that would like to say something. That concludes my administrative remarks, other than the next meeting is July 23rd.
All right, other comments? Jason?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Mark and congratulations. Job well done. You're instrumental in helping me. When I first came onto the board, I didn't know anything about pension systems. So I want to thank you for all the hard work that you've done. And I hope you know that you're fairly legendary throughout the state of Washington for all that you've done. And I think it's important for you to hear that. And I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
So I'd just like to say thank you. This has been one of the greatest opportunities I've ever had in my life to make a difference. And without all the people in the room and people out of the room, it wouldn't have happened. And there's been so many bills passed that have benefited our members, police officers, firefighters, their families, their children, their wives and husbands, and significant others. And it falls on everybody to be doing that. And I think this is such a different sort of a board than a lot of boards that pension boards people that I've talked to, in that I think over 90% of all the bills that this board has proposed to the legislature have passed because we've done our due diligence. We have cooperated together as legislators on the board, as employer representatives and police representatives and fire representatives for the common good. And it'll something I'll remember for the rest of my life. And it's been an honor to be part of that. And there's been a lot of expertise on this from the staff, from board members, from the people at that state actuary's office and people from DRS as well. And all the staff, the ombudsman program is something and I'm super proud of. And I've referred a number of people to the ombudsman, and they have really improved the lives of the people that we represent. And to me, that's always been the hallmark of this board, and the purpose of this board is to improve the lives of our members and their families. And I think cooperatively, we've done that. And I guess probably I would say 90% of all the pieces of legislation that the board has proposed to the legislature have been unanimous from the board. There have been very few dissenting votes in all the years that we've been doing this. And I think that's a testament to everybody taking their fiduciary responsibility seriously and doing the right thing for the right reason and paying attention to the details. It's been fun for me to learn a tremendous amount of stuff that I never thought I could learn. I'm not a math guy, but the actuaries have been very good about dumbing down things in an accurate way so that I could understand them and be able to explain the what we did and how it works. And so I would like to say a special thank you to the staff and Steve in particular for leading this operation, the day-to-day operation, which is so important. We come up here, you know, once a month and we network with each other. We talk to legislators from time to time, but the expertise of the staff has been tremendous. And there's one big difference from before and after the board in terms of legislation. The legislators looked at any proposals from, they would say, self-interested groups. Oh, here's the union. The firefighters union wants this, or the police officers union want this. And so it was harder to pass those things because they thought it was a self-interested proposal. And after the board was created, and now it's actually a state agency. And I think that made a huge difference in the minds of legislators about what it meant to have agency request legislation. It had a whole new patina. It had a whole new feeling for getting things done. And so I think it's been very successful for a lot of reasons. People are smart. The staff is excellent at what they do. We've been able to articulate to the legislature through the representation on the board, including state representatives and senators and employer representatives and then employee representatives. So it's been a lot of fun and it's been great. And we owe a lot to everybody in the room and people that aren't in the room, past members, past staff, past trustees. And so I just thank you. Yeah, it's been great.
Appreciate it. Done a great job. Other comments?
I just want to make sure you don't miss agenda item number 6.
On wrong sheet. This one. All right. Public comment. The left board welcomes public comment in advance of all meetings and has posted instructions on its website for the submission of written comments today. Staff received no comments in advance of today's meeting for distribution to the board. So maybe next month. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 23rd. We're back here, 9:30, admin meeting at 8:30. Any questions or Jay?
Just for the rest of the board and staff, I will not be at the July meeting. I'm on vacation.
You're bragging.
Yeah.
Doubly for me.
Okay. And you won't be here either, obviously. We'll have to make sure we got a quorum.
I should have mentioned in my admin update, we are in communication with the governor's office regarding the vacant positions on the board. They have expressed their awareness of the importance of getting those positions filled promptly so that the board can continue their important work without fear of not having a quorum. So we'll keep you posted by email between now and July 23rd about the status of the appointments for the 4 remaining vacant positions.
Seeing or hearing no other comments, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. See everybody in July. Thank you very much.
Thank you.